along this journey of business automation, there are a huge amount of things that are going to come up for different people on an emotional level, on a personal level, on a business sense, on a family sense. Whatever it might be, there are always new challenges that are thrown at you. And I today am joined by not only a client, but my good friend, Troy Tudham from C2 Sky Electrical and all the other businesses that he has, whatever you want to throw them in under. And I want to talk today about one of the final components to this journey of automation. All right. A lot of shit can come up for you at this point where you're finally at the space where you can step away from your business and have it run by others. And I want to talk to him today about all of those things. Troy, how are you?
I'm really good, man. How you doing?
Mate, I am actually I'm gonna be real open, honest, raw here. I'm a bit stressed. We've got a lot going on at the moment.
You still looking,
Um,
bro? Game face.
Mate, thank you. Thank you. I wish my wife was that kind to me. She this morning was like, "Man, you look, you look haggard," is the word she used. I said, "Babe, that's because not only have we had a tumultuous week moving house, but you've now also thrown painting the whole house into the mix." We moved into a new place, and she has decided that she doesn't like the walls. So she has requested for me to get them painted. And Troy, myself and Nick Boizo, we actually came up with the plan yesterday that we are just going to pay someone to paint the house.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to pretend that I'm doing it because she's not there. She's not at the new house yet. And I'm going to pretend that I'm doing it. I've told her it's going to take 2 full days, 24-hour grueling days, and I probably need to sleep there. And me and Nick Boizo came up with a strategy, and we actually want to invite you. But we're just going to fly to Vegas for a couple of
Yep.
days, have some fun, and we're going to pay fucking someone to paint the house. Are you
And
in?
we're going Sabo, are we?
Mate, we can wait till tomorrow. We can wait till
Oh
tomorrow.
yeah, sweet. No, you leave the guy like a back to front hat and a good attitude, and make him look real tired, and get your film crew in there. Make sure you
Yep.
milk as long as you can.
I will. Anyway, Troy, man, I really wanted to speak to you today. I was in a session with you last week, and you're at that point that everyone dreams about. When we talk about business, you're at that point where, let's rewind it. You're at the point just before that point. You have established that, and we've been working together for a while now. You are at the pointy end of the automation journey. You've got the business ready for you to step out. I really just want to talk about some of the things that have come up for you in these last few months.
Yeah, sure, man. I'll go back to sort of, where the end goal is, and then we'll step back. So always have the end goal. You want that, the big business, meeting those profit margins you want, to live the lifestyle you want. And, everyone's dream is to sort of have it running and you stepping away, letting go and never worrying about it ever again. I've got everything to the stage, 20 full-time staff, owning the workshop. That was a journey on its own. And because that's so high-paced and so demanding on yourself, and it's like an adrenaline-filled rush, it was about 12, maybe just over 12 months from that. I think it was about 4 or 5 staff to 20 staff to all the ranges of services and buying the companies and just merging it all. It was all go, 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 go. And then it got to a point where we're at that size. We had the profit margins. Everything was busy, and I was still super busy. And go, okay, at what point does this? Okay, you've got everyone in the positions, and at what point does this go? Okay, where does it start to run itself? I had the biggest realization, I think, 2 months ago. I remember having that meeting, and it was just like I was burnt out. I was tired. I was not done. I'd never be done. I'd never give up on anything. But it was just there's something not right. It was a yes man thing, and I think that's what most business owners are at a certain extent. You're always people pleasing, you're always pushing, you're always doing the best for your clients and your staff and everything. And I had a huge realization that every single staff member was happy to do their 38 hours, walk out the door, and I've been the yes man I was covering all the positions, which I hired them for as well, sometimes night times, weekends, and everything to make sure things kept going. And I had a big realization and ended up, you know, just deciding I had to let go. I said, I've got everything to this position. I still can overlook and help everyone to do the jobs that I feel like I've allocated. But for some reason, I'm still so heavily involved. And then, yeah, I just had an instant realization. That's when we had that meeting saying, like, what's next? And you said, we've got to let it go. We've got to let it fail. What's the worst possible thing that'll ever happen? As soon as that sunk in, saying, okay, the worst thing, if I had a week or two off is, we might break even for 2 weeks or we might run with a bit of a loss. Everything will still be going. There might be materials not ordered or something like that. Okay, sweet. So I ended up booking a holiday the next day. Went away for a week and a half, no communication at all with the business. The day before I went away, I did have a big meeting with the staff, sat them all down and just brought it to realization. I said, yeah, everybody here's so well looked after. I'm at a point now where I'm stoked with what everyone's doing, but that 1 or 2 extra percent from everyone is going to go a long way within the business. And that 1 or 2 extra percent is actually going to help you all, because if I can free myself up, I can free you all up to teach you more. I was super scared to have that conversation because being the yes man and trying to keep everyone happy, I thought everyone would go, oh, we're already doing enough and, that's the business owner's job and all this sort of stuff. But no, realistically, we kept, I think I had 23 staff. A few guys with, just been with us forever, and that 2 retired because I said, look, you're probably going to have to do quoting a bit more. You're going to have to do, everyone's got to step up that little bit. 2 guys are going to finish at the end of the year anyway. They're retiring, so they left. And everyone that stayed on has really stepped up. And it changed this whole mindset of the business. I think a lot of staff possibly think their business owner actually really enjoys doing 100-hour weeks and stuff, but most of the time is they're doing it for their staff or making sure that everybody has a job the next day or whatever it is. So as soon as I brought that to realisation, reminded everyone, look, I'm a human. I don't mind working. I like the challenge, but, everybody's hired here for, certain positions. I want to turn the tables and you guys to step up more, and I can help every single one of you push forward. So I got back from that holiday, and it was the first time in 6 years since I've had the business that I didn't have an anxiety attack, which most business owners probably know, where you come back and you're going, all right, that wasn't worth going away because now I'm backed up 3 months of work to catch up on, which you're barely struggling to keep up on now. So that was, the biggest turning point of probably my career, because it's all just been so forward, growing, progressing. Everything's running fairly smoothly, but because I had my fingers so hard on that pulse, it was such a big turning point mentally for myself. Just go, let's let go. We've hired all the best that we could. Everybody should know, or be able to, with 20 people, have a solution for something, or work with each other instead of everything running through myself. So I just told everyone to have a go. And that was 2 and a bit months ago. And since then, realistically, I've probably worked 3 weeks all up. I have everybody building up lists of things to do. So the mindset of them is not, okay, we'll just ask Troy or get Troy to do that. It's try our hardest, ask everyone within the company, and then come to me and go, how do I do that? Not you do. So my days now are pretty much sitting around waiting for my list of things that people want to learn, not people want me to do. Every time we're learning, we create more SOPs and making sure not just one person knows that try show 2 or 3, and then everyone can working together. Because I find when you're doing training, you probably know yourself, you might sink into 80% to that person, 80% to that person, 80% to that person. No one ever takes in everything you're trying to give them, especially if it's something intense. But if you train 5 people and they're working together, hopefully they've picked up enough information between each other to come up with a solution every time, that thing comes up, and then they continue to grow and evolve all together as a team. So, right now, it's huge life changing for me. And it was all of a sudden overnight. It was about 2 weeks after that. I ended up going back to Indonesia for another week and a half, just to test it again. Come back with even less to do, and that was the point where it was a huge realization for myself, saying, "What's next?" Um,
Mm.
you know, it didn't take long, like you told me. You should start prepping whatever you're doing next. You're so close to it. And I thought, oh look, I'll let it happen, and I'll chill out for a bit, figure out what's going on, try and enjoy it, and then I'll move on to the next thing. But it was only within weeks. I think it's because you push so hard for that end goal, and then as soon as you know that this is almost over, if you're a go-getter, you're going to feel lost.
Yep.
And then you have some massive realizations.
Yep.
One, that you've made it, so you really got to enjoy it, or try to enjoy it as much as you can. And then two, that, like you've said so many times in the past, like the whole retirement, sitting around fishing and stuff like that. Like, there's only so much you can do. Like, I think that everyone still needs a sense of satisfaction or a purpose.
Yeah. So I want to go back because I feel like you've said a lot of stuff in that initial bit, and I'd love to unpack some of it.
Yeah.
I want to make it really clear to everyone listening that, like, you didn't just up and leave and go. You did a lot of hard work. We've worked really hard, and when I say we've talked and you've done. You've done a lot of hard work over the last 18 to 12 months to get your business to a point of being ready for this next step. You've also done a lot of work within yourself to be ready for this. And I don't know if you actually know that. And I really want to firstly congratulate you on that. Secondly, I would love to hear from you about the feelings that arose when, because I'm going to be really honest. Like, I've sat here. Let's go for the last 4 months. I sat here knowing a lot of the answers to give you, but I didn't give them to you because I know that you needed to identify some of these things for yourself to actually truly believe that it was the right point for this to happen.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I've been talking with a lot of the other coaches about the situation that you're in. It actually got to this point where you were starting to, from the outside in, it appeared like you were starting to get quite flustered, quite stressed, quite annoyed at the situation that was at hand. And it was like you didn't even realize or know why you were feeling the way that you were feeling. Yep. And there's so many times in that space where, as your friend, as your mate, I wanted to like save you. Yeah, because I myself am also the yes man. I want to make you feel good. I want to make all my clients, all my staff, I want to hold them and make them feel good. But sometimes the best way to let someone move forward properly is to actually just keep pushing and poking and annoying the shit out of them. Because I reckon you're going to agree, I was a pretty annoying coach the last 2 or 3 months because I wasn't giving you the level of answers that I normally would give you. I kept giving you just more questions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was because I had identified that you were there, you just didn't believe it. You weren't taking those final couple of steps to do the next bit. Yep.
Yeah. So I
And
just
so
lost those last few seconds. But
that's okay. I knew you were there. All right. I
yeah.
knew that you were at that point, but I don't think you realized it. And so
Yeah.
I had to give you more questions as opposed to answers so that you would get to that point of realization.
Yeah.
I want to know what that felt like. I want to know what the feeling was for the frustration, but then also what did it feel like when you actually had that aha moment?
Oh, yeah. I completely agree. There's times where I'm just going, why won't Mitch bloody fix this? What? But I do respect it at the same time. Not given the instant answers or that small sense of satisfaction and getting in that little bit of the deep end, putting the pressure on, it's how you grow personally. It's not someone else doing for us like we're doing with staff right now. But yeah, at the time, I had the answers for everything business wise. I always knew, okay, 2 more billables, need more work, you know, better systems, just, you know, everything pushing, just keep evolving that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to that point and, you know, it was just before where we are at the moment. It's that tipping point. And, you know, I think you just had to keep sparking into me. And it wasn't until I had to really sit down and take some time for myself, and really write out, you know, my purpose, remind myself why I'm doing this, you know, what the original goal was and what future would be like, you know,
Yep.
once we get to that stage and what I got to do to get to that stage. And sometimes you're just so busy, so full on, you can just feel so congested. You know, it's just you're just hustling, you're just going, and then it can just be such a tipping point that you know you're not prepared for that. And that
Yeah.
was the loss, you know, the confusion and the frustration. You know, what's that next bit? You know, I put so much into growth. What's that next stage? What's the letting go? How do I get out? And it wasn't until I really sat down, started writing out, you know, why I do this, you know, what the end goal was, what's next, and trying to break that down is when I started to realise, going, um, you know, I think the only thing that was holding me back was letting go,
Yep.
which is why, yeah, that was the big word for me at the time. Just going, just let go. You know, I've made
Yeah.
it to where I need to get or where I ever wanted to be, well beyond that. Um,
Yep.
Now I just need to let go and let the people that I hired to, well, the way I worded it, especially to the staff, it's like I've looked after you guys for so long. Now
Yeah.
it's time for myself to look after me and my family and my friends. And I
I
think that,
think so many of us as business owners, we create an identity for ourselves that we're a business owner.
yeah,
And that's like that's the major part of our own identity to get successful, because we need to embrace that.
yeah,
It's like that acceptance piece. You need to, as a business owner, you know what? You need to understand that, 40-hour weeks, gone,
yeah,
especially at the start. And maybe for as long as it takes, and that you are 100% in control of your destiny. And, you have all these other people underneath you that you need to lift up each and every day, that you need to organize work for, that you need to take care of, that you need to insert whatever it might be. And so, worked with a lot of business owners, and I've seen a couple of them implode pretty badly, actually, where they get to the stage that you're at, and their whole fucking identity is, I'm a business owner.
yeah.
And then when someone else has to take the reins,
Mm,
or when it gets to that point where someone else can take the reins, they shit the bed.
yeah, you lose yourself.
Yeah.
It wasn't until probably after my last holiday when I had that realization. I started to feel that people see me as a service, especially in a small town. You know, there's 2,000 people and we hire 20 of them. And every
Yeah.
single friend, family, everything like that, every single knows me as that's the owner of Cedar Sky or that's that, you know, the electrical guy or whatever. And then you start to remove yourself from that and you go, this is getting pretty deep, but you're going, who am I? Like, who am I
Mm.
if I'm not, you know, the electrical business owner? And then, yeah, that can be a huge rabbit warren. I love surfing or footy or snowboarding. Like, well, they're my hobbies. Who am I? So you can go really, really deep with it. But that's really what I'm working on at the moment is what's next, what life looks like for me, and who am I going to be after that electrical business owner? And
Yep.
it's a funny position to be in. I'm trying to embrace it because it probably doesn't come around in life very often. But
Yep.
at the same time, I'm looking forward to finding the answers.
Yeah. Now I've probably got. We were going through this last night actually, and I've probably got at this point in time about 25% of my client base, as a coach, not as all the coaches here, but 25% of my client base are now at the point that you are at. Yep. They're essentially where they need to let go to actually take the next step. Yep. How did you actually do it? How did you actually let go? Because you had held on to that control for so long, so
Mm.
tightly, you guarded it. And while I'd been sitting there for fucking months talking about, hey, hey, what was it that changed inside? How did you finally go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to take this next step. I'm going to move to this space.
I'm going to go deep again. I had a couple massive weeks throughout start of winter here. It's the busiest time of the year. All other business owners are stressed, which puts the stress on everyone else. And it's just going round and round in town for the locals and everything. Doing huge hours. And my parents, um, they surprised me at one of my footy games. Um, they live 6.5 hours away. Um, so it's pretty emotional for me, to be honest. But they surprised me at my footy game, a local game here, and I grew up them watching. They love watching. Probably once or twice a year they get to do it. They didn't even tell me till they're at the field, and I turn up the field straight from work, still so focused, and I couldn't give them the emotion that they deserved. I was just still so focused on work, and that was the biggest realization that work was taking priority over my family, my friends, and everything for so long.
Yeah.
And then that was the next week when I sat all the staff down saying, look, every single one of you guys has come to me with issues with your family, your friends, and whatever's going on at home. And I've looked after every single one of you, so always cover. Now's the point in time I'm going to have to let go.
Yep.
And that's where everyone's going to have to step up. So for me, it was just a tipping point of if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to be doing that in 20, 30 years. I might have 100 staff. I might be really rich, but I'm still going to be doing these hours unless something changes.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I had that emotional realization that day where,
Yep.
my parents visit. I get to see them a few times a year. And I just said, look, I couldn't even have that connection with them because I was just so wired from just these crazy weeks and I was so focused on work. And that was my biggest realization. I felt like I've done the hard yards. I've got there, and
Yep.
the only other way to get out is to let people try help me, run this thing now. I've got enough people invested in the business that I feel like have enough respect for me. And we'll just have to see how it goes. I did a big journal entry that next day after footy about worst case scenarios, and that helped me a lot. Just writing down, if this quote doesn't get done, what's the worst case scenario? If I don't order that material and someone else does it the day after, what's the worst case scenario? And I find that the only way that people are going to learn, and you've said it so many times, you've got to let it fail. You can't jump in at night time and just, change the schedule to make things better for the next day. You can't jump in, order those materials to make sure they rock up to get that project done next week. You have to just let it go, and hold people accountable in those positions. You'll find things slipping, and there's so much every single business owner does that they don't even know they do, and that's what we're going through right now. Is filtering out, going, oh shit, I didn't even know I did that every day. I didn't even know that's how I think to schedule. That you really got to let it go to get that information out. So
You said it before. You said that you've got to get into a point of understanding that your one of your biggest strengths as a business owner needs to be that you're a teacher, not a doer. Yep. Of course, you need to do shit. Yep. Of course, there's a time and a place for this, but you need to move to a space where you're starting to try and teach your team to be self-sufficient. And that doesn't occur if you're always fixing the problems and the mistakes. You're actually cutting the legs out from them, but also prolonging the point of you having to stay in the business.
Yeah. And I feel like when you're saving the day, you think people notice, but they don't. Until something goes wrong and someone's, that's their job and they're held accountable to it. They don't even know. They just think, that's just his job. He's just overlooking it or fixing it or whatever. So, like you're saying.
I use the example of, you ever heard of, Kenny, the comedian?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got this skit where he is talking about the magical basket, and he's like, he pulls his wife to the side and he's like, babe, I need to show you this. I've got this magic basket, and somehow, as long as I throw my shit close to it, it arrives clean and folded the next day in my wardrobe. And that's what your staff do. Yeah. Your staff get to this point where they take everything that you do for granted.
Mm.
because you're simply fixing shit without them being aware that it's even being fixed. And they're just like, oh, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think
And
it's a really, really important realization.
it's not much for them. Like they would already be halfway through a job, their head's in it. So for you to try to pick up the pieces and fix it, it's their
Yep.
extra 5 minutes. And I think that's something as well to bring to attention is, I was so focused on billable hours and from overhead calculations, but and it's just like get them just working and we'll just fix everything in the office. But if they're trained, they know the job, they know that what's going on, they should be ones ordering materials, they should be ones talking to the customer, they should be the ones doing that instead of going, we've got an office, use just work. You
Yeah.
need them to be professionals, and in this day and age, you think you might lose 5 minutes, but if you look in the back end, they send it to the office chases them up 2 weeks later for the quote details, and backwards and forwards, you've lost the job. So that was a huge change as well. It's like we've slowed down a little bit from the text, like so much like push I used to have on them, making sure you try to get your 9.5, 10 hours, but they're doing 9 hours and they're doing their own schedule, and they're doing their own quotes, they're doing their own invoicing, and that extra hour is all that all that stuff that takes ages backwards and forwards. It'll save you so much on the back end with with your office and the delays with everything. So what we've designed now is so much more scalable. It's not something that one person leaves and we're going to be in trouble. It's like, everybody's doing pretty much the same job, and there's a few, major players, but everybody knows it from underneath as well. So, it's not one or two people that are running it. It's everyone who's so invested now. It's quite nice.
Yep. Yep. I like that. I like that. I often talk about that, to be a successful business owner, and when I say successful, it's my definition of successful.
Yeah.
There's essentially like four key components to it. Yep. Like one, you essentially need to develop that talent of identifying the vision and building up the vision and so on. You need to be a gun at removing friction. Yep. Like shit comes up and you've got to just remove that friction. That's your derogative for the team, is to remove as much friction as you can for them,
Yeah.
to a degree, but also then mentor and teach them how they can actually then start to remove that friction.
Yeah.
But then you also need to take action. So if you talk about that, you've got vision, you've got friction, you've got being the mentor, and you've got taking actions. Put those things together, that's where you get like the ultimate supreme being of being an owner. And it's a really hard balancing act to not sit in one of those spaces too much. You don't want to just be, oh, I'm going to fucking only remove friction from people, make their lives so easy. It's like, no, you've got to find that seesaw.
Yeah.
Remove friction, but also mentor and teach and lead so that they do their own shit.
Yeah, and that's sort of probably where we're at the moment. Like I'm feeling balanced in that, which probably haven't for a long time, because yourself, when you go into business, you put so much effort into one thing and then this thing starts slipping, so you feel like you're chasing the tail constantly. Now it's like I've got one or two jobs for the day. It might just be a big tender that I need to work through because I haven't handed that side of the quoting off, and I still enjoy it. And then the rest of the day is just people's questions, and they're becoming less and less and less. But, I think at this point as well, it's quite nice because you're the people pleaser, and it's not pleasing in terms of just fixing things and filling in the gaps. It's pleasing as in they can get your attention and book a meeting with you instantly when they need help.
Yep.
It's beforehand, someone want to learn something from me, they'd have to wait 2 weeks, and then it's probably already forgotten about and I've already fixed it. Now and that's sort of where you got to be at. I feel like in my mind to really hand over, you got to have that connection. You got to have that trust, and you got to be ready. Like you got to be there for them when they need it, or within 24 hours or whatever it is, while it's still fresh, while the issue's still there. So it's fulfilling in a way with people pleasing, because people actually enjoy learning. Or most go-getters that you're looking to hire will enjoy learning, will enjoy the challenge, will enjoy the more responsibility.
Yep. Now you brought up an interesting point before. All right. Was that, hey, I'm at this point now. What's next? Like, what are you going to do? Because, I said this to you. I said, man, I know you well enough. You're going to have things to entertain yourself once you, step away from this part of life that has consumed so much of you for so long.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What is next for Troy?
I haven't haven't fully hit the nail on the head yet. At the moment, I'm just, Jindabyne just doesn't feel like forever home. It might be, but I really need to get out there and see. I can picture myself somewhere a bit warmer on the beach, surfing and everything like that. So, one, I want to work on possibly my relocation.
Yep.
Two is massive one that just keeps popping my head is relationships, whether that be a girlfriend, but along, spending more time with my family, which live, far away. Even my friends, I've got a lot of really supportive friends here, but they only get to see me, and a lot of times they only get to see me, very briefly, and a lot of times I'm still wired from work, and they know there's someone still cool behind there, but it's very rare that I get to be myself.
Yep.
So it's a bit of a personal journey now. Find what's next. Like you're asking, man, I've got to find it myself. But a lot of it is relationships, fulfillment. It might not be something so business orientated, like financially. I'm pretty happy. Like it might be business related, but more helping people get more satisfaction out of it. Something I'm passionate about more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you really need to. I think I need to be pretty much 7/8 removed to be having that mindset of what's actually going to feel good, what's going to be moving forward.
Nice. A theme that's come up a couple of times is like that not knowing's okay. It's like when you were in that space, the realization was I got to let it fail a little, and not knowing what's going to happen is okay. But I know the worst, but not knowing's okay.
Yeah.
And then while you're implementing it along the journey, you're like, hey, it's okay. Like some shit's going to happen, and I don't know what might eventuate from every one of those things, but that's okay. And then now you're at this point where I'm not sure, and you've become really comfortable in the unsure now, or more comfortable than you were in the unsure. And I think that's, once again, talk about the three points where the majority of business owners fear amounts so badly that they shit the bed. One, when you first go out in business, the fear succumbs. Holy fuck, I thought this would be easier. Oh my God, I didn't realize it would be so hard.
100%.
Second point, yep. Oh, wow. I have now essentially put myself off the tools, and I've got to trust everyone else to do all the work and shit. And that's a freak out because it's a reinvention of self. And then this point,
Yeah.
where you don't have to. Like everything that you've worked so hard to build and everything that you've gotten so deep in now has to kind of like change to a certain degree. I really take my hat off to you to be able to see yourself through those three stages. So I don't want to say so easily, because then it kind of takes away from the challenge that is.
Yeah.
But you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just you need that constant reminder of why you're doing it. If you don't go into that uncertainty, you're never going to move forward. If you don't go into that uncomfortable position, you're never going to move forward.
Yep.
I think I always had that thing in the back of my head, which was probably you, but just pestering me. But I had this fear, which I see, those tradie business owners at 50, 60, they might have 3 or 4 guys, and they just hate it. They whinge about it, but they're so stuck in it. And every time I've been in a comfortable position or a position where we're not moving forward or moving towards the goals, you'd have to get yourself in a really uncomfortable position to say, well, what are we going to do to move forward? I've got to, like you're saying, I've got to get staff on, I've got to get off the tools, and I've got to hope they can do the job out there and see what happens. You got to keep reminding yourself of why you do it, what your goals are, and it's not going to be easy and comfortable the whole way. But yeah, I definitely see people struggling to take that next stage and do that uncomfortable thing. Sometimes people are more comfortable going through the battle than going through possibly what could happen if you let go at certain points.
Yep. Look, I want to massively thank you for jumping on today, having a conversation. And I don't know if you realize it, but you will inspire some people that are listening to come to the realization that I can do this. The fears that I'm feeling are normal. The uncertainty is a component of this adventure. And I just have to take the action to get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
So, and massive thank you, massive congratulations. And man, I'm super excited for our next couple of adventures in Bali together.
I'm so stoked. Thanks heaps for everything over the last 12 to 18 months. And yeah, especially that 2 or 3 months ago when you mentioned that, you knew I had the answers, but you just weren't making it sunshine and roses. You knew that I had to work it out myself. That's probably a huge realization to, bring that up. Yeah, it was hard, but you knew I needed that.
Yep.
And yeah, no, much appreciated, because I feel like if we continue, you keep that sunshine roses, keep pushing sort of thing, I would have kept going in the same direction. I would have still been hustling, but been at 25 staff instead of 20. At some point, you knew my goals, you knew I had to pull the pin and realign me,
Yeah.
which was awesome, man. Thanks heaps. Yeah,
Yeah.
deep down, you've got me from closing the business. What was it? Start last year. I said I've got 6 months in me, or it's done, to where we are now, and where I am personally now, and financially and everything. Couldn't have done it without you. It's been awesome.
And I thank you as well. I still remember taking your call. I was actually at the Meriton Suites up on the Sunshine Coast. Up on in Surface, which is actually where we just had. And I'm so sad you couldn't be there, but we actually just had our annual event up there. But you got the win. You had your football grand finals. But I was there, and yeah, I remember having that conversation with you about where you're at. And it was so funny because one of the big focuses that you had in that initial conversation was the actual showroom, your lighting showroom.
Mm.
And it's so interesting as to how small a component that actually has been of your success. So it's interesting. What's really important at one point, when all things are said and done, isn't actually the most important thing at the end. So, man, thank you for steering the course. Thank you for putting up with me being your annoying coach and sometimes not giving you the answers you may have wanted or seeked. But man, I care for you. I had your best interest at heart, and I'm fucking glad we got there. So well done.
Let's go on with the next thing. Once I find what it is.
Next thing, I look forward to it. All right, once again, man, thank you so much. Troy from Sea to Sky, you're an absolute legend. And brother, I love you. And we'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, bro. Chat soon.
You.